The fourth package film was fun and fancy-free. Now that the war is over, the army finally left the studio and it was now held to its rightful owners. Only one problem. During the war, they lost a lot of money. So the only thing they could do is to make more package films. In this one, the host of the first segment is Jiminy Cricket, and he sings a deleted song from Pinocchio called I'm a Happy-Go-Lucky Fellow. Then he sees a record player and puts on the story of Bongo. It's a weird story of a circus bear that escapes the circus and tries to impress a girl bear. It was originally to be a full-length prequel to Dumbo, but they couldn't because of, the war. The second one is Mickey and the Beanstalk, which the role of Jack is played by Mickey, Goofy, and Donald. I think we all know the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, right? The narrators of this segment are told by Edgar Bergen and his ventriloquist, Charlie McCarthy and Mortimer Snerd, in live-action sequences. They tell the story to child actress Luana Patton at her birthday party. This was the last time that Walt provided the voice of Mickey Mouse, due that he's a chain smoker and it weakened his vocal cords. He hired Jimmy MacDonald to finish the voice work. In a deleted scene, Honest John and Gideon from Pinocchio played the role of the sellers who exchanged Mickey's cow for beans. Another version was Princess Minnie who traded with Mickey. Speaking of the cow, that's what I like about this version. Instead of Jack's mom just telling him to trade the cow, they had a good reason why they needed to trade it. Because of Donald. Why? Yeah, I'm not going into details. 1 year later... 1 year later, they released Melody Time. This one is pretty much like Fantasia and Make Mine Music, with the musical segments as the theme and stuff. Anyways, the first segment is Once Upon a Winter Time, where Frances Langford sings about two lovers in the month of December. It's just romance crap, nothing special. Then it's Bumble Boogie, where a bee is escaping this weird musical fantasy. Like Blue Bayou, it was originally supposed to be in Fantasia. It's so weird that it would have been a good nomination to be in that film. After that is The Legend of Johnny Appleseed, who roams the US to plant apple trees, thus earning his nickname, Johnny Appleseed. Then it's that famous segment, Little Toot. It's pretty similar to Pedro in Saludos Amigos. He wants to be like his dad, but he can't get out of trouble. But instead of a plane, the protagonist is a tugboat. Then it's Trees. All there is on this segment is a poem about trees and animation of around a tree. And that's it. This sucks. Blame It on the Samba returns Donald Duck with Jose Carioca meeting with the Araquan bird, who appeared in the short Clown of the Jungle and the Three Caballeros. The bird introduces them to the pleasures of the samba. Haven't they learned about the samba in Saludos Amigos and the Three Caballeros? Finally, it's Pesos Bill, the story of a legendary cowboy in Texas and how he got back down to earth by some girl called Slewfoot Sue. For the DVD release, they removed a lot of scenes where Bill smokes a cigarette. They removed so much that they removed almost everything on the tornado sequence. Now for the final package film, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, or originally called Two Fabulous Characters. The movie starts in a library and British actor Basil Rathbone tells the tale of The Wind in the Willows, based on a book of Kenneth Grahame. It's the story of a fun-loving squire named Mr. Toad who lost his deed to Toad Hall. When it went to the wrong hands of Winky, he tries to bring it back with the help of his friends Rat, Mole, and Makbajar. I know the names are not that creative, but it's better to stick with the book. Then it goes back to the library and Bing Crosby comes in to tell the story of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. It's the dark tale of Ichabod Crane who comes into Sleepy Hollow and tries to flirt with Katrina Van Hazel. Then one Halloween night, he encounters the Headless Horseman and then disappears the next morning. While Disney Studios was really getting low on cash, they have to reuse some animation from the short The Old Mill for Sleepy Hollow. They also modeled Katrina close to Grace Martin from The Martins and the Coys in Make My Music. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow segment actually inspired director Tim Burton to make his own version called Sleepy Hollow. After the time that Walt made package films, he released a full-length feature film with everything he had. And by everything, I mean $3 million in budget. It was his biggest gamble. If this film was successful, then Walt would continue making his dreams come true. If not, then the whole studio would close down. So what happened to Walt's fate, you may ask? I think you'll know the answer when I say the title of the film. It was Cinderella, the story of a girl who lived with her evil stepmother and stepsisters who wishes to go to the ball. With the help of her fairy godmother, she meets her Prince Charming and lived happily ever after. As you can see, Disney decided to go back to what they did with Snow White. A female protagonist, it was a musical, strong supporting characters, the list goes on. According to Lauren Dowell, one of the directing animators of the film, almost 90% of the movie was done in live-action model before the animation kicked in. In other words, they have to rotoscope to reduce cost. For the first time, the songs, written by Tim Panhaley, were published by the new Walt Disney Music Company. Lady Tremaine, also known as the evil stepmother, is now known to be one of the best Disney villains who doesn't use magic. It's all thanks to her personality, how she treats Cinderella, her evil stares, and even more. When it was released, it was one of the biggest hits of the 50s, and it was nominated for 3 Oscars. Now that the studio is back on its feet, Walt can finally make the films he always wanted before the war began. What were they? Well, here's a frame from the opening scene of Pinocchio. Take a good look at the books behind Jiminy Cricket. You see the titles? Walt put them there as a sneak peek of his next projects. One of these titles was Alice in Wonderland, based on the novels by Lewis Carroll. It's the story of a young girl who falls down a rabbit hole and goes into Wonderland, a land so weird it's just unexplainable. Let me tell you that Walt was familiar with the character Alice because he started his film career with the Alice comedy series he made back in 1923 in Kansas City. He always planned to do an Alice movie. Heck, he originally planned to make that his first film. It was supposed to be a live-action girl in a cartoon world, like the series, but then Paramount released a live-action version of Alice, so Walt had to do it all animated. Let me also tell you that making a film on Lewis Carroll's novels is really no easy task. It doesn't really have a plot, and doing anything of Carroll is noted as unfilmable. On its original release in 1951, it only did just okay. The British hated the film because they said Disney Americanized, whatever that means, the film, and didn't like the plan of putting both Alice novels in a 90-minute film. Walt later on felt that the Alice character had no heart. It only got its true fame when it was re-released in the 60s. It was a perfect fit for the time because the hippies and whoever do drugs liked the psychedelic feeling of the film. Another film that was psychedelically popular at the time was Fantasia.